All right. It was a busy day. I think our first draft without any trades, so that was interesting, but I think it worked out well for us. Going to start with Spencer Burford from UTSA. A young man who played tackle at UTSA. We think he has guard and tackle flexibility, really good feet and quickness, excellent length as well, and we think he's really a scheme fit. We targeted him early. He came out here on a 30 visit and got to know the young man better and became very convicted. And we're hoping he'd be there, and he was, and we jumped at the opportunity. Next, we went to a corner who we think has nickel flexibility in Samuel Womack. Interesting story, a walk-on at Toledo who became a two-time captain. Very highly productive player at Toledo. Can really run, and very productive around the ball. All kinds of PBUs and playmaker rate as our R&D guys took a look at it. Next, we drafted an offensive lineman who played tackle at Fordham. At the Senior Bowl, he slid down to guard, and I think got better every day there. We liked his traits, like his makeup a lot. Another captain at his school, Nick Zakel. We were calling him Zakelsh the whole time. I just saw the pronunciation, and it's Zakel as I read it.
Announcer, are you?
I don't know. Used to be very good at that, but. The next guy, frankly, Chris Kasarik, we keep saying, if you ever complain that we don't give you players, we're going to have a problem. But Kalia Davis is just, he's a guy we see a lot of DJ Jones in. That type of explosion. Had an ACL injury, and, we're gonna take our time to make sure Kalia's right. So I'm not sure if he'll be ready for the start of the regular season. Could be a PUP guy, but really just loved. He fits exactly who we want to be as a defensive tackle, and became very fond of him through the process. Didn't know how that go. You never do about how long they're going to last. Felt like that was really good value there. The corner from Penn State. Anytime you're playing DB at Penn State, you're doing something right. This guy's got all the height, weight, speed. Started a number of games at Penn State. I went back to that pro day. Listened to the coaches speak glowingly about him, and we like that pick there. And then finally, he's relevant to us, but Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, and we're excited. Started a ton of games at Iowa State, really helped influence a culture change there, and played a lot of good football for them. So with that, we'll open it up for questions.
You went through all those guys. Was there something was there a theme that kind of developed through the course of these past 2 days when you're making picks about all these guys kind of tying together?
Well, I think one of the themes was we didn't have a whole lot of needs on our roster, but we did have some that were there. We needed O-linemen, and so, but we also wanted to stay extremely disciplined and not just take somebody to take, and Burford. We kind of in that third and fourth round, I felt like there was a gap, and he was one of the guys that we had in that we'd be really excited to have, and so we jumped at that. Zakel fits that as well. Corners, I think, what D'Amico and that staff did last year. We were hurt at corner a large part of the year to finish third in the league. Was pretty. A testament to D'Amico, his staff, and to our players, and we felt like we needed to add, and so you can't have enough good ones. We also, we have an open spot at nickel that we're going to let a bunch of people compete for, and we think, Womack will go into that competition as well, and so I think that was kind of the theme, and then as I mentioned with Kalia, just a guy he's a very good fit for who we are and what we do.
Well, you mentioned Kalia. You said DJ Jones. When I saw some of the highlights, he seemed really fluid, and then I looked, and he played linebacker. Is that a new thing? A linebacker moving to defensive tackle? I haven't really seen anything like that before.
Yeah, you don't see it a whole lot, but you can see it. I think an interesting trait on him, a lot like DJ. We preach get off explosion. You guys hear, if you're at training camp, you hear Kasarik. That comes out of his mouth more than anything. Get off, and And in addition to just getting off, some guys are just disruptive, but then other guys can get off and they get in the backfield and finish. And I think the linebacker play probably helps him there. He's a really good finisher once he disrupts. And so just a lot to like on that kid. And obviously have to deal with his knee injury. We want to make sure, eager to get him out here so we can get on top of his rehab and see exactly where he's at.
You know, a year ago you guys were here with Trey Lance as your first overall pick. Was he around or check in at all this weekend? And how do you feel that you helped him in the supporting cast offensively?
He wasn't around this weekend. He was around Monday through Thursday, but I guess he was around Thursday. We didn't pick on Thursday, so it was different at the start of the draft. But, I mean, we went into this draft that, just numbers-wise, we were down in numbers at corner and O-line. So it was nice to add 2 of those at each position. And then you try to take the best player available. You got needs, which you always want to address, but you never want to over-address. So if the right player with your needs goes there, then it makes a lot of sense. So it's cool we came out with 4 of those guys in 2 different areas. Then the others, we felt with the best player at the time. And I do think there's players that can help Trey, that can help our whole offense. And I was real excited about the defense guys we had today, too.
Kyle, did you have any interaction with Brock Purdy leading up to this? And just tell us about him and what you like about him.
I didn't have any interaction with him. Just going through this whole draft, I spent a lot of my times at all the positions knowing that we might not have the luxury to take a quarterback. That's stuff that our scouts get ahead on. I had Brian and Clay, Greasy and Kubiak get on that for the last couple of months, and they gave you a list of the guys they liked. They tried to narrow it down where possibilities where we would take one. And there aren't a lot, when you get to those top parts in the draft. So he was a guy we labeled early as our #1 free agent we were going to go after. And when you get to there and they haven't been drafted, and we got that last pick, we thought it was perfect. The guy's played a lot of football, plays the game the right way, is extremely tough, gets the ball in the right spots, and plays very well in the pocket. And he's a guy we think can come in here and help us fill out this roster and give himself a chance to make a team.
Now, 2 spots you guys didn't draft were center and safety, which to novices maybe they're like, well, why didn't you do that? It looks like you might have needs there. Is that a reflection of just the way the draft fell, or maybe you feel pretty comfortable with who you have?
Yeah, I think a little of both. There's a free agent class that's come along that might include some candidates there as well, and so you have these needs, but you also we have Jake Brindell, who's not a household name, but we have a lot of confidence in his ability. We've talked about Mac's situation. We'll see where that ends up. Zakel, might have some flex there as well. So we're going to work through it, and we'll find it. We'll find that answer.
Would you consider moving Daniel Brunskill to center, or is he entrenched at guard?
Consider all that stuff. We feel like we drafted 2 inside guys. They both play tackle in college, but we feel like for us, we drafted 2 inside guys, which usually start at guard, but you want to see everyone when we do center. Usually have one center, but everyone who's stretched, you got to have someone else who can play it. Dan's done that, so you definitely have an option there. You just talked about Jake Brendel, who we're excited about. So keeping our fingers crossed on that, but we got a plan that we can't count on it. And we'd love to have center, love to have safety, but you do the best with your picks. And a lot of guys that we did have it. An lineman can play inside. You hope they can do center, but if you haven't seen them do it, you find that out in camp. Usually pick your best 8 and roll with it.
I know you're not into establishing the depth chart in late April, but as far as strong safety, is it?
You look at safety, I'd love to have safety, but we also got Jimmy Ward, who I think is pretty good. He's been a draft pick on Fanga last year, but we think had a really good rookie year. We brought in a really good safety for agency in Odo, who is a special teams captain for his team. Started a number of games for them at Indy this year. We got played at the starter level. And then we got Targary's coming back, who in 2020, he played half the year as a starter, and we felt he finished his last 5 games as a true starting safety. And before that, he was always one of our best special teams players. So you got 4 NFL players there. You always want to upgrade and take the best, but you do have 4 NFL players there.
How is Moore looking?
Targary's?
Yeah.
I think he's doing well. We're not allowed to see them out there until Monday. That's when coaches can go out on the field and stuff, so we'll actually get to be able to work with him and do some drills and everything. But he was here these first 2 weeks, and he's been working out with the guys, and I'm excited about him.
Is there a scenario in which Jaquaski Tartt could be back too? I know he's still out there. Have you guys talked to him at all?
We haven't talked to Kowalski. We haven't gone there yet. We'll see. I mean, he's a free agent. We think highly of Kowalski. He's played a lot of good football for us, and we're grateful for that. Talented dude. He'll play in this league and continue to play at a high level.
Anytime we have a guy that we know that we believe in as a person, and everyone knows the Tars play at a high level and help us out a lot, we would never rule out anybody like that.
When it comes to adding one of these veteran free agents, is that something you guys want to do right away, or could that wait until June or camp?
I think if we feel it makes sense and someone else is willing to do it for the right price, and we think fits the spot on the roster, we would never have any problem at the time. We try to do it as soon as possible, but it's got to be right close up.
Do you have the financial wherewithal to do it right now, or would you have to slide somebody off the roster?
There's people upstairs that are so good at that. No matter what they say, they can figure out the algorithm, the equation.
Do you have a date in mind when we can stop asking Alex Mack questions?
You'd have to ask Alex. That's more than Alex. I think we both got an idea which way he's leaning, but that's really not us to do that. It's kind of up to Alex.
He had such a good season in 2021. Does it surprise you that he's wavering?
Yeah, I think it did a little bit, but it's also understandable. I mean, football's not the easiest thing to do, no matter how much you enjoy the competition. He is up there in age, but in terms of how he looks on tape and how he was, I mean, everyone knows he can still play. So that's whatever's best for him and his family, and I think that's something he's trying to work with. I know he just got married and from an unbelievable honeymoon, so you don't want to ask this thing right when they get back.
We've talked about the relative depth of the roster already, and you didn't trade. You have 9 of these guys coming in. Is that something that you just embrace, and there's going to be a ton of competition for pretty few spots?
We love the competition. We'll see where the undrafted free agent class ends up, but we're going to be close to the 90-man limit. We don't have to get all the way there. We like our roster. We really do. We think it's well constructed. Now we got to go put it together. This is there's teams that I think can compete for the thing. We think we're one of those, and now you got to go put the work in. Have a tremendous offseason, come together as a team. There's so much movement on these rosters these days that's what it really comes down to. Not every team has to have a roster that I think if you're honestly looking at it has an opportunity to go compete. But we believe that we do, and now it's about our guys coming together and forming our identity for this year's team as to who we are, and we're excited about that process.
Was it your plan to use all 9 picks coming into the draft, or did you want to consolidate, move up?
Yeah, there was a couple times today we were on the phone thinking about moving up, and then as long as you have a couple of players that are still there, let's hang. And we even talked about going back some, so it was different because we're used to moving around some, but it just played out that way that nothing ever came to fruition, and we were happy with the way it flowed.
Were there any more calls about Debo, and has anything changed with him?
There wasn't, and nothing's changed.
This is kind of an odd question, but at the end of a draft, is there a sense of relief? Is it a letdown, like a wedding, like you spent so much time planning it and then it's done, or what are those feelings?
It's I always think this process is so fun, and I'm always so proud of our group, the way we come together and work. It really is. I mean, the word collaborative is so overused, but I think our process really is that. Obviously, our staff upstairs, we're working on this thing nonstop. Coaches are doing what they should do coaching, but then Kyle asks a lot of his coaches. We ask a lot of his coaches to contribute to the process because we feel that's the way it's best done. And the interesting thing this year is our coaching staff got shaken up a little. You lose some. Mike McDaniel, some of those guys were tremendous evaluators and knew our system, but there was also an influx of new ideas, and so that was really fun. And so I think those guys contributed some things, but we have a system in place that is a well-oiled machine, and so I think it flows well. So I think at this time, I'm ready just to go have a good party. It's always like you put a lot of work in. Now it's time to go celebrate the fruits of your labor and then get back to work. Phase 2 starts Monday.
I agree with everything you said, but I'm definitely celebrating that I don't have to watch college film until next February.
With Mike and so many other guys that used to work for you or run similar schemes, do you almost notice like guys that you have graded coming off, and you're like,
gosh, yeah, incredible. You know, with Martin at Washington, Kwesi now at Minnesota, and you know, I think you know you're trained to see things a certain way. Your R&D systems are similar, so a lot of the same players end up there. It's not always the same, but there's a lot of picks that we're taking, and they're going, oh man, we were coming after that guy, and vice versa. So
you realize how much more it is in your 6th year, because it's personnel, it's also coaches. You know, with all the teams he said, we have guys we coach with who are our coaching staff and personnel staff are very involved in the process together. So wherever they branch out, whether it's Denver, whether it's Green Bay, New York, Washington, there's a lot more teams than it used to be, so you can kind of have an idea of who you think affected that pick.
In the past, you've shared a couple stories about great calls that you've made. I mean, you're changing lives of these players. Do you have any that stood out from this year's draft?
Let me see here. You know, yeah. I think a lot of everyone's excited, you know. So I think Kalia Davis stood out. He was here on his 30 visit. We got to know him quite well. I think it's been a tough process for him coming off the ACL. I think there's a lot of, so I think it was extremely emotional for him. He got close with Chris and Daryl and D'Amico and our staff, as well as our personnel. That one stood out. Some of the special stories, Dan Gray's got quite a story, you know, and similar. But even to guys we've never met, like a Zakel, guys on our scouting staff have interviewed him and whatnot. I've never met him, but just having a good conversation. He's back in Cleveland with his family.
Danny was cool because I barely could hear him because I think his parents were thanking us so much in the back.
That's right.
His dad, I'm assuming, but I'm not sure.
No, that's always it's one of the coolest things.
It was cooler when we could see it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because our phone, you don't totally know when you get to see it as you're talking to people. It's a little better.
There were a lot of time was JK's dad, Kinlaw's dad, rolling around the carpet. That was pretty good.
There were a lot of offensive players, receivers who were really fast at the combine this year. Danny Gray being one of them. What kind of distinguished him from those other guys, and does he remind you of any other receivers that you've coached in the past?
Yeah, there's fast guys and then there's guys ahead of those guys, and I think Danny's one of them. And there's anywhere from like 1 to 5 in the draft, and I think there was more in this draft than usual. Probably starting with the Alabama receiver in the 1st round. So you label those guys, and then anyone who's in that club, which is barely any of them, then you look who has the best hands out of them. Really fast guys tend not to have as good of hands as others. You try to see who's the toughest, who stays the healthiest. So you put all those things together, and what I liked about Danny, I'd say his #1 trait was speed, but I felt like his #2 trait was toughness. And I think that's a rare quality for those two to be 1 and 2. So I definitely like that about him a lot.
I think the cool thing too with him, we pride ourselves on the yards after catch. And I remember one time calling Kyle and saying, "Man, I just threw a screen reel on it." And when you just have a speed guy, sometimes those guys, they're very linear athletes. He can take that ball. He's got the toughness, so he's kind of fearless. But he can find his way. We call it slashing. He slashes his way through the defense, and that was fun to find a guy with that much speed who also has the other elements. And I think it only starts with toughness, because if you're afraid, you're not going to go through there very fast. So he plays to his time speed, which is a rarity, you know, both down the field and also with the ball in his hands.
Available, do you look at it as an opportunity to really develop these guys if you can keep, you know, a handful or how many ever on the practice squad?
That's the hardest thing about the NFL, that, you know, that's why I talk about you want to get the best player available, but you also got to look at numbers too. You know, our numbers are lower at corner and they're lower at O-line, so you know you have to have those numbers. Then you look at best players, but, you know, we got, like, you look at our D-line, we got more NFL players on our D-line than that can be on the NFL roster. So you think of how to take them and things like that, and that all plays into it. And if you if you think that you're going to take a good guy early just because he's the best player, but they can't make your team, that sounds great. Like, oh, we'll just put them on practice squad and we'll develop them. But everyone else in the league knows that they should have been a high draft pick, and I promise you they're not going to last on your practice squad. So it's hard to develop a talented guy because usually they're stolen. Other people got to think they're not talented for them to stay in your practice squad. So that's what's so stressful about a draft pick. When you take a high guy who is that talented, if he's not ready to play, they're just going to sit there on your roster till they're ready, which can be week 8, can be year 2. You know they're that good. They just need more time. But there's no area to put them aside because of the 53-man roster and stuff. So that's what the huge challenge is, and that's why sometimes you see people trade back and things like that because it's not worth going for that guy there because you don't know if you can make your position on the team.
So that's kind of like why Kalia was such a luxury, because you don't need him and you can protect him by keeping him on PUP or.
Yeah, but we're not going to make any judgments on that. You get all these inflection points for a guy who's been injured. They have a recheck at the combine, so our docs were there. Kalia was there. But until you have him and see exactly where he is in his rehab, I think we got to look at him during his 30 visit, which gave us some confidence about where he's at. But we're really going to have to get him in here. So no judgment as to whether he's ready at training camp or not. We're just not there yet. But we felt good enough about the talent that it was worth it.
It's also hard. You have so many times where you think you're good there, and then someone gets hurt walking into the locker room in OTAs, and you all of a sudden have lost a guy. You're like, oh man, I thought we had too many, and there's no point in drafting a guy. And then it's the first day of training camp or OTAs, and one's done. And you're like, oh my gosh, we should have taken that guy. So injuries are such a big deal, and that's why you got to have some luck, and you got to keep working at it.
Can you share how many free agents you plan to sign?
That's kind of going on right now. So
is there a number?
I'd be lying if I told you because it's like happening right now. A lot of competition out there, so we'll see. I'm getting updates as we go, but Corey will update you when that's done.
How much easier or harder was it? I mean, I think 3 times as many players that declared for the draft. This last year was weird with COVID. What was that difference like?
Everyone's got their draft meetings planned, and I think a common theme around the league, talking to my counterparts, where they went beyond, and just because of the COVID, there were more players in the pool. They had the opportunity to come back. A lot of kids took the opportunity, took advantage of that, and so there were more kids to grade, and it was a lot more work, but there's a lot more players to pick from, so that was cool.
Can you go a little bit more in depth on Brock Purdy? Just what are the traits or the characteristics you see from him that kind of stood out when you watched the film?
He knows how to play the position well. He's got a ton of reps. You're not looking on like what you can develop him into. You're looking at this guy knows how to play the position. Let's see how he can do it at this level. I think there are some traits that were very similar to Nick Mullins, who was a 4-year starter, who played at a very high level in college, and people want to know how he can do it at this level, and that's why we probably got him where we did. But this is a very hard position to play, and he does it extremely consistent. I love how balanced he is in the pocket. I love that he'll hang in there. Doesn't need good protection to get rid of the ball, and usually if someone's open, he gets the ball to the right spot.
So there's no priority placed on getting quarterbacks that look like stylistically like Trey, because you have Nate under contract. You have
there would be if we thought the right guy was there. I mean, you're not trying to I'd love to draw up like the perfect balance of everybody, but you're going to try to take the guys who you think that are the best when you have the opportunity to take them in. And we felt pretty strongly that Brock was at that point.